Happy TGI Friday, everybody. It's Thursday for me now. It's Friday for you guys watching this now. We're gonna get fucking into it, man. The Google post-election meeting has hit. And whoa, is it fucking scary. Like, there are some parts where I'm just like, where did it go wrong? You guys are saying all this shit, and boy did you not wind up doing that fucking a year and a half later, or 2 years later almost. Where did it all go wrong? What in the fuck happened? And then there's other times where I'm like, yep, there it is. There's that shit right there. They were talking about it fucking the day after the election. It's scary stuff, folks. It's long. It's an hour long. I am not there. It's 7:30 now. I gotta be in bed by 10. There is no fucking way I'm gonna be able to do the whole thing. I'm gonna do a little bit today. I might do a little bit tomorrow, and then I will finish up the rest of it over the weekend. So there's gonna be a small chunk, another small chunk, and then a huge, big, long thing. So the small chunks, honestly, I think are going to be the more important part, because it's the individual speakers, and then the big long part, that's going to be kind of, I don't want to say the boring part, because there's a lot of good shit in there, but it's kind of going to be covering the Q&A aspect of the meeting, and I don't know, honestly, that might be the scariest part of it when it really all comes down to it. Not so much for what the Google execs say, but for the questions that their employees ask. It's going to be interesting. I think the whole thing altogether is very interesting. It's definitely a good watch. I think anybody that has any sort of investment in being on the internet at all should pay attention. And you should really watch the whole thing. I mean, you don't have to watch my whole thing just talking about it, but it's definitely, I think, a good idea to watch the whole meeting and at least listen to what they have to say. Because, again, it's scary fucking stuff. So, without further ado, we're going to get into it. TGI Friday!
I know this is probably not the most joyous TGIF we have had.
See, already, they start off, yeah, this sucks. Like, what happened to we're impartial? What happened to we're middle of the road? We don't really pick a side. What happened to that shit? You never really were like that, were you?
And, let's face it, most people here are pretty upset and pretty sad for...
Because you lost. You really were never, ever impartial, were you?
Because of the election.
Yeah, because of the election. Because your side lost. Because you don't get to be ushered into the fucking socialist utopia. Because globalism took a big hit. And all of a sudden, we're concerned about us. And that just sucks for you guys, doesn't it? Because if America is concerned for America, what are all you Americans going to do? All right?
But there's another group, a small group that we should also think about, who are very excited about the legalization of pot.
Yeah, I'm going to skip all the pot jokes. I am cutting this out, but I'm telling you, of course, ahead of time that I'm cutting this out. All it is pot jokes. So we're going to skip the pot jokes because timing purposes.
But anyway, on a more serious note, myself... as an immigrant and a refugee.
A legal immigrant? Because if you're a legal immigrant, what difference does it make to you? Donald Trump only ever talked about illegal immigrants. By the way, everybody, if you're on Twitter, make sure that you know that if you say illegal alien, well, that's now considered hate speech on Twitter, and you might get banned for that shit. So watch if you decide to say illegal alien on Twitter, because that's now hate speech.
I certainly find this election deeply offensive.
Offensive. Because he didn't want to play the social justice game. Man, I find your bullshit offensive. So where does that put us? Oh, I guess with me fucked because you're the one that controls everything. Huh. I'm really beginning to get this whole power plus prejudice thing. I'm beginning to understand how it works.
I know many of you do too. And I think it's a very stressful time, and it conflicts with many of our values.
Now, they say values a lot. Our values. It all conflicts with our values. They say it a lot during the course of this. Our values. It's scary how many times they decide to mention how all of the things that are going on conflict with our values. I thought you guys were unbiased. Middle of the road. Well, you better fucking stuff that shit down. Because you got to keep being unbiased, right?
I think it's a good time to reflect on that, and we're gonna hopefully share some thoughts today. I guess there are two dominant reasons to be upset.
Because you lost, and because you just don't know how to fucking handle that shit.
One is because so many people apparently don't share many of the values that we have.
There it is again. We're not even 2 minutes into this motherfucker. And we're already talking about our values and how many people don't share our values. What do you plan to do about that? I mean, I know what you've done about it, but what were you planning to do back then? The same fucking thing? I'm thinking the exact same thing you guys have done.
I guess we've known that for many months now. It's not like, election terms, whether it was like 47.2% or 48.2% or whatever it was. It's always been a lot of people that apparently feel that way. But certainly confronting it firsthand is pretty upsetting.
Yeah, it's upsetting when people don't believe in the same wackadoo bullshit that you do. Yeah, I can understand that too.
And secondly, confronting the reality of an administration that's now forming, and look, we have no idea what it's going to do, is the honest truth.
Yeah, that's because you guys made up this big boogeyman in your mind. You didn't listen to what the man said, point blank, he was going to do, which, funny enough, is exactly what he's done. Exactly what he said he was going to do, that's what he's done. But you just couldn't believe that because you were so caught up in grabbing him by the pussy.
We have no idea what direction this country will take.
Apparently.
Whatever the past policy proposals were serious or not or whatnot. And it's a period of great uncertainty. And, it's uncertain for many of us here, especially immigrants or
legal immigrants? Because I don't believe you ever said anything about legal immigrants.
Minorities.
Record low unemployment for minorities. That sounds pretty good, except for the fact you got to go to work now, but you're making money.
Women.
Record low unemployment for women. And you guys can still kill your babies at will. Plus, right?
So many people, and just generally, people who have kids and wonder about their world.
Well, if your kids are in your teens, they'll have jobs. If your kids are a lot younger than that, they might still be fucked.
I don't have great answers for you up here today, but I think it's important that we chat about it and are thoughtful about it in the coming months. And with that, Sundar.
So that Sundar comes up, and honestly, I gotta say, all in all, there were a couple of, creepy points where I was like, But for the most part, I kind of like what he had to say. I don't know. I'm very conflicted about Sundar.
Thanks, Sergey. It's good to see all of you here. I'm glad we're getting together at a moment like this.
It's a fucking meeting. It's a Friday meeting. Apparently you guys have Friday meetings all the time. Your TGI Friday meetings. So, it's not like it's an unexpected fucking moment, and this isn't a goddamn funeral. So what exactly does that mean? Like, I'm very conflicted with Sundar.
It's been an extraordinarily stressful time, I'm sure, for many of you. The outcome, in a two-party system with a lot of polarization in the country, it's a deeply divided country, and you have a binary outcome, right? There is no easy way through this. And historically, all political processes are stressful and tough, particularly if the outcome is not what you hope for. On top of that, I think all of us would agree this election was particularly hard.
Yeah, because a lot of people made up a whole lot of bullshit in their fucking minds. And also, you guys lost. Big time. Because you fooled yourselves into thinking we got it in the bag. And you didn't.
There was a lot of rhetoric. And there were a lot of groups targeted. And so I think all of that makes it a very hard cycle, especially with our values.
Our values. Really creepy how many times they mentioned that, isn't it?
But I hope, a couple things I would say is, it's important to remember, we are in a democratic system. And, it's heartening to see actually a transition happen properly.
Yeah. He admits the transition is happening properly. Pretty cool.
And, I grew up in India, and there were a lot of things wrong, but it was a democratic country. And we've gone through many, many, many hairy moments like this, right? And it's a country of, it was a poor country of 1+ billion people going through a democratic process with many more divided opinions than what you're seeing here. And I've seen over time, have faith in it. It tends to work out. There are many, many scary moments when it looks like the wheels are coming off. But it tends to make through okay, and it seems to be better than any other system out there.
Like I said, very conflicted with Sundar. Like, he loves the system, but he's just upset that the system, in this case, didn't align with their values. I don't know. I'm very conflicted about this. There's a lot of points in this where I'm like, everything you're saying is bullshit, isn't it? Like, do you know that at this point that everything you're saying is bullshit? Because a couple of years into the future, what you're saying is bullshit.
So I think we should keep that in mind. I think it's a good moment of reflection, introspection, and listening to each other too.
Yeah. Stay in that bubble. I can't wait till they get to the question that involves the bubble. Because, boy, do they lie even more.
I think part of the reason the outcome ended up the way it is people don't feel heard across both sides, and I think it's important to reach out and
silence the other side, because you can't beat them. So make sure nobody hears them.
Talk to each other.
You didn't really do that, did you? No, you didn't really do that at all.
There is a lot of fear within Google. I've gotten a lot of emails, to my note back. And I would tell most Googlers there are people who are very afraid. And Sergey pointed out the, many groups, women, blacks, people who are afraid based on religion, people who are afraid because they are not sure of their status. The LGBTQ community, and I can go on. There is a lot of fear, and so I think it's important to reach out, be aware of that fear,
and make sure that nobody hears about the other side, because all that will do is increase the fear, because it might prove that we're wrong and that most of our values are fucking retarded.
I would be sensitive and try and talk and have conversations to the extent possible. We are so deeply committed to our values.
There it is again. It's really creepy. Like, it's really creepy. Be amazed. I should go through and total up how many times they mention their values. But it's fucking creepy. It's a lot.
Sergey mentioned at the start, nothing will change. I think we'll stand up always for the values we believe in.
Yeah. But how far are you willing to go? I mean, we know now how far you're willing to go. But back then, how far were you willing to go? How bad did it have to get? How much did you have to lose before you realized, oh God, we're going to have to start rigging the game?
And especially, I think, in a society, you stand up for people who are minorities. And that's what defines a society. And we'll continue to do that.
See, that's the difference. You don't stand up for the people who are minorities. You stand up for the people who are weak. Like, that's what defines a great society. That the might don't rule. You stand up for those who are weak. You bring up people. You don't pull down people.
I think we have few people who are going to come and say thoughts. I'm not sure I can get through everything I wanted to say. So I'm going to have Ken come, say a few things, and we'll come back. And we have a few more people to add thoughts.
Ken really, I know exactly about Ken. I don't really know. Like, Ken scares me. Ken's a scary fucking guy. Like, of all of the people who are oblivious to the shit that's going on around him when he's giving his little speech, Ken's the fucking worst. Ken's a very scary guy. Ken's a zealot.
It was a shock to all of us, the results of the election. It was a fair and democratic process, and we honor that.
Do you? Maybe on that day you did, but you don't now.
But at the same time, it showed an incredible level of division among Americans, and that's something that gives us pause and focuses on how did we misunderstand that? What can we do to reach out to people whose perspective we have a hard time understanding?
You don't do a lot of reaching out, man. You just didn't. You didn't do any reaching out. Well, I mean, yeah, you reached out and pushed.
But it's not just a challenge for America. It's a challenge that goes well beyond America. The implications for the rest of the world are vast, and the echoes around the world are significant. This is not the first sign we've seen of this rising tide of nationalism, populism.
See, like, I don't know, the whole nationalism thing. What's wrong with the President of the United States being concerned with the United States before any other country? He's not the President of fucking Mexico or Canada or the UK. He's the President of the United States. And he's concerned about the United States. That seems to me to be very fucking appropriate.
And concern. They're drivers of globalization and immigration.
See, here's one of the places where Ken is very fucking weird. Globalization and immigration. You'd think that globalization, if you're trying to make the world a better place, would be trying to make the world a better place, right? And immigration, in the way that they kind of seem to mean it, is bringing as many people from around the world here as possible. So you're not really caring about the other, like the rest of the world. You don't care about the rest of the world. You don't care about making it better. You care about pretending like you do, but yet you just want to bring as many people here as possible. Like, it's a very conflicting ideology. Ken's kind of a zealot, because it's shit that doesn't make sense, and he just rattles it off like it should, and it fucking doesn't. How does globalization and immigration, how do those things go together? I don't understand that, Ken. But I'm reaching out to you. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Please don't strike my channel into oblivion for this.
Which have sparked movements throughout Europe, throughout Asia, throughout Latin America. You see not just Brexit, but rising new parties that are coming onto the scene, splintering of traditional parties. We've seen it through Germany and France, Italy has a referendum next month.
Yeah, I've seen what's going on in Germany. I saw that a couple of guys tried to stop some immigrants from attacking a woman, and they were killed for it. Or at least one of them was killed. I think one was killed, and there were a couple others that were seriously wounded. And then they had a big march about it, which got turned into, look at those racists.
The Philippines, Thailand, are big chunks of Latin America.
Like Venezuela? Huh? You globalizing over in Venezuela? Or are you trying to make sure as many people immigrate out of there as possible? Because it's fucked. And you support people who want to bring exactly that kind of bullshit here. It just doesn't fucking make any sense, man. It doesn't.
We're trying to figure out what our right next steps are in that, but we recognize that globalization and the internet have been an incredible force for change. They have brought hundreds of millions of people out of extreme poverty around the world. Incredible force for good.
Yeah, and that's awesome. When you're doing that over there, that's great. Because then people will want to stay there and grow where they're planted. And less people will want to bounce all around the fucking world to all the more successful countries, because all the countries will become more successful. That's what I like about globalization. But you guys are confused with the whole thing. It's just, what you say doesn't fucking make any sense to me. Because it doesn't make any sense.
But all politics is local, goes the old phrase. And if you're in Pennsylvania or Birmingham, you may not care that somebody in Delhi is getting a new job or that somebody in Jakarta is getting better health care. You care about what's happened to you and your family.
Yeah, because some guy in Delhi getting a new job or somebody in Jakarta getting better health care has fuck all to do with me. I don't think it's racist or xenophobic to realize that and voice that. Because it's realism.
And you're seeing this sense of stagnation, that you're not better off than your parents, and you're afraid that your kids might not be better off than you are. And what's the path forward?
Well, apparently the path forward was to not elect another politician to the presidency that's like all the other presidents that we've had for the past however long it is we've been stagnating. And sure as fucking shit, we're not stagnant now, are we? Booming!
And the forces out there seem well beyond you. Globalization, immigration, trade, whatever.
So there it is again. Globalization, immigration. They don't go together. It doesn't make sense when you put them together.
And you're afraid and you're trying to look for answers. And that fear, I think, not just in the United States, but around the world, is what's fueling concerns, xenophobia, hatred, and a desire for answers that may or may not be there.
Dude, the fear doesn't fuel xenophobia and hatred. Bullshit does. So why don't you quit pushing so much bullshit?
It's feeling a distrust of experts and disregard of traditional institutions. And we're trying to figure out, how do we respond to that? What are the next steps for us before the world comes into this environment of tribalism?
Tribalism. Makes me laugh that he brings up tribalism, considering the guy before him was talking about all the different groups. Right? All the different groups. Women, and black people, and immigrants, and other minorities, LGBT, and all this shit. All those different tribes that he was talking about that fit into their values. And this asshole's talking about fucking tribalism. And it's great what he says next about it.
That's self-destructive on the long term.
Self-destructive on the long term. Boy, didn't you call it right.
There are cycles of these things that often can last 5, 10 years before people feel as though that they've had a chance to vent that anger. And yet, we do think that history is on our side in a profound and an important way.
In the long run, history is not going to be on your side, especially if you get your way.
Martin Luther King made famous a line that the moral arc of history is long, but it bends toward justice. I would say that the moral arc of history is long, but it bends toward progress.
Yeah. And Martin Luther King, if he knew your value set, would tell you you're an asshole.
And out of progress comes rising living standards and better health care, and ultimately the ability to transcend those forces of tribalism and, yes, reach toward justice. So for 500 years, technology and trade has raised living standards around the world, and I think there's every sign that we'll continue to do that.
And that's awesome. What does that have to do with immigration? What does that have to do with xenophobia? You're making things better around the world. So why do you want to shift people around so much? Makes no fucking sense, Ken. No sense.
That as we help that change come to pass, while it may be that the internet and globalization were part of the cause of this problem, we are also fundamentally an essential part of the solution to this problem.
The final solution. I know another guy that had a final solution too.
Prime Minister Matteo Renzi in Italy talks about two worlds, the world of the wall and the world of the square. The world of the wall, the world of the fortress, the world of the silo, isolation and defensiveness. And the world of the square, the piazza, the agora, the marketplace, where people come together into a community and enrich each other's lives. The tools that we build help people come into the world of the square.
Your square has got some pretty massive fucking walls, my man.
You saw the video about Missouri Star Quilt, changing the fortunes of not just a family, not just a community, the entire village was made better by the tools that we make every day. We help people come together, build together, cooperate, communicate.
And ultimately, shut down all opposition. Giant fucking walls around your square.
Google is a trusted source of information for people around the world. That's incredibly valuable at times like this.
And that, right there, is an incredibly scary fucking sentiment.
To make that happen, to figure out how we're going to navigate not only continuing to make transformative products and making the world a better place, and yeah, I'll say it even though they mock Silicon Valley for believing it, we need to be able to work together. We need to have each other's back. We need to stand together in a time that's going to be incredibly difficult as we advocate for our values.
Bam! Our values.
And we see what not only the U.S. administration, but other administrations around the world take shape, how they take shape over the next few years. I would say, please, understand each other, trust in the rule of law, and let me turn it over to first Ruth and then Eileen to talk about how we internally can continue that work of building bridges and working together.
Yeah, Ken's a fucking zealot. You want to know why? Everything's just mixed up in his fucking head. That's how you can really call out the zealots. Because they just, all this fucking bullshit. We got one guy before him talking about all these tribes. And he's talking about how tribalism doesn't work. But yet, it's part of our values. Dude, it gets worse than that. When the women start to come up, oh boy, tomorrow's going to be quite a good one. So you might want to stay tuned for that at least. And like I said, over the weekend I will handle the rest of it. But I mean, it's an hour-long video. Which means it's probably going to be a 3-hour-long series when I'm fucking done tearing it apart. So I can't do it tonight. I can't stay up until 6 o'clock in the morning because that's when I get up to go to work. So sorry about that. It's going to have to be in parts. It just has to be. I don't have vacation time yet. Otherwise, I would take vacation time and I would just buckle down until it's done. But, you know, whatever. So we're digging into it, man. This is some heavy shit, and it's interesting to watch this, 2 years in the future, because man, is it just all horse shit. It's just all horse shit. Everything they're saying is just horse shit. It all comes across as like scary innuendo now. Like it's this scary innuendo. I don't know. I don't know if it's like at some point something snapped and then it was just, yeah, all those things we said before, fuck all that, man. We're running this bitch now, or at least we're going to try. Like, I don't know if something changed along the way or if this is all really scary innuendo. But at this point, scary innuendo.